Filtering by row means to extract only some of the data rows from the original data table based on some criteria. Filtering by column means to extract only some of the data columns from the original data table based on other criteria. So let's start with the column filtering. Here I have a prepared workflow which already reads the adult data set. You remember the adult data set contains records of people quantified by age, work class, education, native country, income, and so on. So let's say that we want to keep only the column native country and age. To do that, I use a column filter node. The column filter is in manipulation, column filter, column filter. Let's open the configuration window of the column filter node. Here you find an include-exclude frame. All the columns in the include frame will be kept in the resulting data table. All the columns in the exclude frame will be removed from the resulting data table. I can use these add and remove buttons to move data columns from include to exclude and vice versa. So let's remove all, and then let's select age and let's select native country because those are the two data columns I want to remove. If I want to keep this selection, no matter what the changes are in the input data table, then I select Enforce Inclusion. If I want to keep this exclusion, no matter what the changes are in the input data table, then I select this Enforce Exclusion. So let's run it, execute, let's inspect it. And here I have my two selected data columns from the original data table. This approach, though, is possible only if I have a few data columns, then I can perform a manual selection. If I have many data columns, then of course this approach is not possible anymore. I need to use the wildcard regex selection or the type selection. The wildcard selection allows you to choose data columns based on their names. So for example, I can choose all the data columns that starts with EDU using this star wildcard character. So EDU star and then wildcard option enabled selects all the data columns whose name starts with EDU. So education and education num. Another option is the type selection. Here I can say I want to select all the data columns with type string, and you can see that the included frame, I'm going to have all the data columns with type string, and all the data columns with integer type or other types are going to be excluded. Let's move now to filtering of data rows. Here we want to keep all data rows of people whose native country is United States. So here. We have to use here a row filter node. The configuration window of the row filter node needs the column to use for the matching. So in this case would be the native country. And then it needs the pattern to match in this column. If the column doesn't contain an exorbitant number of possible values, such values are displayed in the menu of the matching pattern selection box, like here. So let's find my United States. In case no values are preloaded, you can always edit the field manually. So for example, like that. Now, you need to define if you want to keep or remove the rows with matching values in the selected column. This is done here by selecting Include Rows by Attribute Value or Exclude Rows by Attribute Value. We want to keep them. Let's execute. Let's open the resulting data table, and we can see that we have all the people whose native country is United States. Again, I can also use the wildcards. For example, if I'm not sure if there is a United-States or United States or United States altogether or United States of America or something else, so I can change my states with the star wildcard and then enable the contains wildcards option and then run it again. And in this case, I'm going to have all the people who were born in a country whose name starts with United. Other matching criteria include intervals with lower and upper bounds for numerical columns here. And another criteria includes missing values match only. You can also include data rows by number, for example, between 1 and 1000 or 10 and 15 or whatever number of data rows you want. Or you can also include data rows by the value in their row ID. There are a few other interesting notes. The nominal value row filter allows you to match values in a columns in an OR way. So, for example, you can match all the people who were born in the United States or in Canada or in Puerto Rico. Then another interesting node is the reference row filter. The reference row filter has two input ports, and the upper input port contains the original data table, and the second input port contains a reference table. And then I can filter all the data rows whose value in a particular data column match the value in another data column of the reference table. And then finally, another interesting node is the rule-based row filter. The rule-based row filter allows the definition of rules to keep or exclude data rows.